Aspen Institute, Czech Republic, we would like to welcome you on the seminar on the artificial intelligence in private and public sectors in two countries, Poland and Czech Republic. The report was done together jointly by the Center for International Relations, represented by me and my colleagues, and by the Aspen Institute Central Eastern Europe, represented by the director of the Aspen Institute, Mr. Milan Jasina. And Milan, maybe you can take a floor for now just to welcome the participants of our discussion.
Hello, so welcome. On behalf of the Aspen Institute Central Europe, I would like to welcome also for today's discussion and presentation of the AI study. I'm very happy that we have done it because for us as Aspen, there are basically three key priorities. A part of the value-based leadership education is the technology, and we strongly believe that artificial intelligence is something which we have to focus on for the future because it's important for the Central Europe as a region, but mainly for the Czech Republic and Poland. And we have here a lot what we have done, and we would like to discuss and present because the technology can bring us and can improve our not only the society but also the economy. So I hope you will enjoy the discussion, and I hope that we can have also the good results, and we as Aspen will continue focusing on the technology topics in the future. So have a good day.
Hello, I hope I'm back.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so thanks, Milan, for this introduction. I just want to remind you, again, we are talking about artificial intelligence, so something which is absolutely crucial now in the times of digital transformation. And the report we've done together, Center for International Relations and Aspen Institute, was done with the help of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Poland, under the Polish-Czech Forum. It's precisely the Polish-Czech Forum for the Reception of Societies, Deepened Cooperation and Good Neighborhood 2020. So thanks the Ministry for this support. The report is quite large. We've done it in two teams, Aspen team and Center for International Relations teams, and I welcome all the authors of this work. From the Polish side, it was Zbigniew Gajewski from the Think Tank Institute, and Evgenia Sargina and Olga Jóźwiak from the Center for International Relations. And from the Czech part, it was Daria Chwizdalowa.
Małgorzata is out, and Are you here, Małgorzata?
Yes, I am there. Yes. Hello?
You can, okay, we hear you.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, I hope we have understood that we had two teams of this report. So from the Czech part, it was Mrs. Daria Chwizdalowa who is with us, and with Mr. Martin Fatun from Technology Center CAS, and Daria is from JFV Engineering. So thanks the team from the Aspen Institute also for your work. And now I move on to the authors. And please, let's start with Zbig, the Polish part. Say a few words about what we found.
Okay, thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank co-authors of the report, Daria and Martin. Thank you very much. And also my friends from the Center for International Relations, Żenia Sargina and Olga Jóźwiak, who broke my research. And what we agreed together. Both our countries have similar ambitions to use artificial intelligence to accelerate development and thus make up the technological and economic gap that separate us from Western Europe. In this report, we look at these intentions and try to assess how far the process is advanced and what else can be done to accelerate it. What did we describe in Polish part? In particular, we analyzed the importance of AI in the policy of our country. the mechanism of financing AI technologies, the degree of their use in the reform of the decision-making process by the state administration, the condition of education and research and the advancement of Polish science, as well as the impact of artificial intelligence on the labor market in Poland. We have also provided examples of AI application in both sectors and the most interesting initiatives using AI to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. So what is the result of our search? As for the public sector, Poland is at the stage of analyzing its needs and possibilities. Fortunately, many public institutions are already aware that the AI era is coming and that new technology could make public services faster and more efficient. Therefore, the public sector is open to those changes and is looking for knowledge and already proven implementation examples. Now, public institutions need an impulse for concrete actions. In our opinion, this impulse should be provided by the Polish government. The pandemic should not be a justification for failures in this field, because the level of AI development in the public sector in Poland, like in our all part of Europe, all our part of Europe, is significantly differs from the advancement of Western Europe. We have 10 times less public institutions that already use AI applications. But those that have chosen to do so report increased efficiency, speeding up procedures, and often lower costs. It means it was worth it. The barrier to the development of artificial intelligence in the public sector is mainly the lack of financial resources and the lack of specialists who could deal with the preparation of projects and their implementation. In some groups of institutions, we also notice a typical distance to any changes and attachment to routine ways of working. As for the Polish private sector, it is much more advanced in adapting artificial intelligence technology than the Polish public sector. According to a study by the European Commission from July this year, more than half of large companies in Poland, 1/3 of medium-sized companies, and 20% small and micro companies already use AI technology. These are not very advanced solutions yet, but we are convinced that artificial intelligence will soon help significantly improve the productivity of the Polish economy and compensate, it's very important, for the loss of people of working age on the labor market. Artificial intelligence in business is most often present today in the financial, insurance, ICT, and commercial sectors. This is because they have a very large amount of data, and their advanced analysis quickly brings specific benefits, including good financial results. The automotive and energy sectors are also interested in rapid AI deployments. What is the biggest obstacle to AI development in private business? As in the public sector, no specialists. According to one of the forecasts, the Polish economy will need so many as 200,000 specialists in artificial intelligence by the year 2025. In our opinion, finding them will be extremely difficult, so education in this field should be expanded as soon as possible. For all these reasons, the public and private sector in Poland is facing a difficult but very promising and profitable path of transformation. And we should all work together to make this revolution help us achieve our aspirations. I encourage you to read the entire report, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Zbig. Thank you all the Polish team, all the colleagues who work on these findings. We did research, we did interviews with companies and public sector as well. So it's interesting to compare it now with the Czech Republic, and I will move on to our Czech team. So Daria and Martin, I guess that Daria, you will take the floor now and present to us what you found in Czech Republic.
Yes, thank you very much. I will share my screen now because I have put together a couple of notes. Is that okay? Everybody can see the slide?
No, we don't see it.
Not yet.
Yes, just me. Sorry.
In the meantime, I just remind you all that the report is from today available on both ASPENT and Center for International Relations websites. And I will encourage you strongly to read it, especially the last chapter, which is a comparative analysis of both the countries. Daria.
Thank you. So for Czech Republic, AI has become one of the strategic topics since 2018 in response to the European Commission initiative. In 2019, last year, the most important strategic document in terms of AI was formulated, which is called the National AI Strategy. The need in Czech Republic for the proactive approach to the deployment of AI technologies is coming up from the assumption that the economic growth during the upcoming period will be fostered much by the application of new technologies and digital technologies, AI being at the forefront of them. The anticipated disruptive impact of AI technologies on the labor market is another reason why this topic is being addressed in our country with such an urgency. Given the structure of Czech workforce and the way in which Czech Republic is participating in global value chain, it will presumably be one of the countries whose occupational structure will be exposed to the greatest changes. We can see that supported by data from OECD and multiple researchers, we can see that up to 6% of Czech employees will have to change their professions in the near future. And while this is mainly energy sector, mining and construction industries and farmers, we can see this as a trend which can affect more and more people continuously, and it will be difficult for them to find alternative employment. At the same time, we can see an interesting trend that while the heads of businesses see this trend and appreciate the necessity to upskill the employees and improve the knowledge and the understanding of how do the modern technologies and AI work and what can be done to implement them. This trend applies more strongly towards the managers themselves, meaning that there is quite a lot of managerial education programs, but not that much connected to different levels of the company. So it is not so strongly perceived among the employees, and this trend is a bit weaker in the sector of small and medium enterprises. So one of the conclusions we arrived at is that strong support in terms of upskilling and education of workforce across all parts of companies and across all economic sectors is strongly needed. Another way how we covered this topic in preparation of this report was the expert discussion on the topic of upskilling held by Aspen Institute Central and Eastern Europe just a couple of months ago. And the findings show that there is a lack of unified platform for addressing the availability of lifelong learning in the Czech Republic, and particularly in the context of artificial intelligence and its importance to the digitalization of the country and the processes as a whole. Such an educational space which could connect different parties could be very much appreciated and could help us eliminate the risks of this aspect. So overall, the situation leaves a lot of space for employing the power of new technology, but also shows the need of more fundamental preparation of businesses in regards to digital skills before the AI-powered advancements are to be implemented and used to the full capacity. As to the financing of AI, we can see, we also looked at this aspect as well as our Polish counterparts and discovered that AI innovation in our country is supported by both private and public sector, and the trend is actually very good. We can see a significant increase in private financing coming, starting in 2015 and then combining jointly. While in 2015, the private sector contribution of total costs of artificial intelligence projects has accounted for less than 20%, in the following years, the share has exceeded 30%. And we can hope that this trend, if continued, could possibly demonstrate the power of positive impact of state support on the mobilization of private resources for AI R&D. So we can see the two parties working together and boosting the economy in the time when it is needed, and boosting the research field from both the fundamental side and the applied side. However, at the same time, according to the recent evaluations of Technology Center of the Czech Academy of Sciences, despite the robust growth in the AI R&D in the past years, the targeted support a little bit suffers from fragmentations, since it depends on the R&D programs managed by government departments, which have been originally conceived with slightly different objectives, and on generic programs within the national grant agencies. So we see that basically a big chunk of the supported projects are conducted in the area where the current state of AI approaches of AI is already approaching human capabilities. So the potential for disruptive innovation is not as big as it could be if the completely new directions and completely new things were explored. Generally, if we take a look at the public administration side, we can see that despite the ambition plans formulated in the National Strategy of Artificial Intelligence in 2019, the current readiness of the Czech Republic public administration to implement and use specific AI solutions is relatively low. On one hand, during the crisis, which was started by COVID-19, we can see many useful AI-based projects focused on combating the virus and fostering the communication between public sector and the citizens. We, with Martin, focused on explaining and putting light on those projects in the report in more detail. But on the other hand, we can also see that this is draining public financial and human resources support, which were originally intended to modify the whole public administration and the entire public sector. Therefore, the implementation of the Czech National Strategy for AI requires in the short term the development of the pilots, and in the long term their implementations. However, there is certain complications which we need to look at before we proceed. Some of them you can see on the screens. Many of them are named out in the report, but it basically all comes down to the existing flow, persistent routine, and the lack of funds in the public administration, which is somewhat similar to the situation we were just presented with from the Polish side. On the level of the practical use of AI in companies in the private sector, we can see the Czech Republic is slightly below average compared to the other European countries, which is one of the reasons we're all here today. The positive news for us is that 70% of domestic companies are already in the process of preparing and experimenting with the use of AI, which is huge. But at the same time, we see that only a small chunk of them has entered the implementation phase. So the situation is that they do not lack enthusiasm, but they lack a clear strategy and specific business scenarios on how can artificial intelligence be used, in which sectors it could bring the most value. And obviously, qualified staff is a problem which needs to be addressed through the lifelong learning and the other aspects. Another interesting thing that we noticed is that generally in the business sector, we can see AI being used to optimize the existing processes, meaning to improve the efficiency of the processes which already take place, while AI as a disruptive technology as a whole could bring a lot of positive impacts while creating new processes. So like the added value can potentially be lower in improving what we have versus when we create something new. But that would require much more massive transformation of business processes, and it's a very long process, which all of our countries and all of the businesses which employ AI to their service are just starting to enter. I would also like just to very briefly touch on the most hot topic of today, which is the use of AI in the battle versus COVID. We saw really a lot of very interesting initiatives here in the Czech Republic, both private sector and individuals, enthusiasts collaborating with the states trying to deliver value. The most interesting projects, however, took place in the areas of public communication, like chatbots, delivering information, easing the load on the information lines, and traceability of potentially infectious people, and even generative drug search in the medical sector. But altogether, it's important to say that a lot of questions were also raised, which need to be answered regarding AI. A careful balance between data privacy and public health is a thing we need to consider. And the usefulness of AI solutions in such cases as the current situation is hampered by lack of data and resources, also supported by a state level, but like generally on the preparedness and the readiness of resources, even of the private sector, which could be mobilized. So it is highly unlikely, from our opinion, that these problems will be addressed in time to be of much help during the present pandemic, unfortunately. But in the meantime, extensive gathering of diagnostic data will be essential for the future impact, for learning how do we use AI in such situations, and mainly in limiting the economic damages from the current pandemic and the restrictions connected to it. As to the practical next steps, a lot of them are described in the report as the suggestions of what could be done in the current situation. I would just like to highlight that it is very important for both of our countries to support the local know-how across different sectors. It is important to communicate the usefulness and the practical scenarios in which AI could bring value, emphasizing the practical level of utility and also communicating the ways to eliminate risks such as ethical AI research, professional retraining for endangered professions, and so on. And also basically bringing to life, bringing to public attention more specific cases of what the technology is and what could it help solve, could foster acceptance much more than a generic and broad discussion of the strategic importance of this technology as a whole. Thank you very much for your attention. I encourage you all to read the report as well, and I thank my partner and co-author Martin Fatun and all the Polish side with Zbigniew Gajewski for their cooperation and creation of this report.
Thanks, Daria and Martin. Excellent job. If Martin, you want to add something, that's the moment.
Hello, everybody. I just want to thank Daria for great presentation and all the partners and all of you for cooperation, as well the people from Czech public sector, which helped me to collect the data. I was responsible for the mainly for the public part of the study in the Czech Republic. So if you will have some questions later on about this, we can speak about. Thank you for now.
Great. So once again, the report is available right now on the websites of the Center for International Relations and also on the Aspen Institute, Central Eastern Europe. So we strongly encourage you to read it after the debate. But we've got something already on the table. There are certain similarities and challenges are pretty the same, like lack of specialists in AI, like actually lack of maybe understanding from the employee side, a lot of funds and a lot of interest. However, the practical aspect is still a lot of things are missing. Let us move on to the discussion now. And I encourage you also, those who follow us on the Facebook, to put questions. We actually have already a first question. Daria, is a little bit about what you mentioned. The question is about the pandemic as an effect, as kind of a moment which will speed up, which may speed up not only the interest, but also the implementation of the AI-based solutions in the world. So the question will be to all the guests and authors if this is really the case. But let me introduce our guest for the discussion today. We have two colleagues from Microsoft company. Microsoft, both the Center for International Relations and the Aspen Institute work with Microsoft on this subject. We were also preparing some other studies with the colleagues from Microsoft. So welcome Dalibor Kaczmar from Czech Republic. Dalibor? Yes, hi.
Hi, Microsata.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Good to see you, and thanks for being with us. And Michael Jaworski from Microsoft Poland.
Good morning.
Good morning. Then we have two representatives from the public sector, both from Poland and from Czech Republic. Let me welcome Vladimir Jurila. Vladimir?
Hello, nice.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
Yes, Vladimir is a chief digital officer in Czech Republic. If you can just say us few words, what's your responsibility?
Yeah, thank you very much. My responsibility is to drive digitalization in Czech Republic, and also I'm responsible for the strategy Digital Czechia, which covers 3 parts. And one part is to be a really good part in Europe. It means Czech in Digital Europe, so digitalization, cross-border cooperation, and all the others. Then e-government, and also digital economy of society, where the AI is going like somewhere through all those pillars. So thank you.
So a lot on your plate. And very briefly, she will join us in a minute. It's Mrs. Justyna Orłowska, who is your counterpart from the Polish side, Polish government side. And then we have 2 gentlemen who would talk more about the private sector, but also about the cooperation between the private sector and the public sector. We have Guillermo Alda from Czech Republic, co-founder and managing partner of Good AI Solutions. Guillermo?
Hello everybody, and thank you so much for inviting me. Very happy to contribute to this very interesting discussion. And of course, thank you to Daria, Martin, and the Czech team for this great report.
And just one word about your company, Good AI Solutions.
Yes, we are an artificial intelligence development studio, and we develop AI applications for business, different industries, and a different size of companies. And I would like to also focus on the smaller and medium-sized companies that we are also developing AI for. And we believe it's very important to develop AI for those size of companies.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. And Mr. Piotr Mieczkowski. Piotr, good morning.
Good morning.
Piotr is a general director of Digital Poland Foundation, which is in between the business and the big players, smaller players, and generally the public sector. Piotr, if you can just say one word about the foundation work.
So our mission is to create Poland as an innovation hub, which is not easy. And we are also really active in AI space. So I'm more than happy to contribute to the discussion today.
Great. Thank you, Piotr, for joining us, and welcome, Justyna Orłowska. You just joined us on time to introduce your portfolio in the Polish government. Justyna, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And can you just say a few words about your responsibilities and about the GovTech?
Yes, thank you. I am working at the Chancellery of Prime Minister, and we are running a GovTech Center, which is, but before it used to be just one department. Now there are 3 departments, because the Ministry of Digital Affairs was moved to the Chancellery of Prime Minister, because it is a high priority to digitize our country, and now even more because of pandemic. Like around the world. That is why GovTech from one department, it's turned out to be now a GovTech Center, where it consists of 3 departments, and we are now responsible for e-services.
Right. Thanks a lot for this introduction. So let's move on to the discussion. We've just heard from the team of authors about the findings in the report, both from the Polish and Czech side. So let's move on to the Microsoft, who works from both these countries. And Dalibor, maybe you can be first. What is your feedback?
Okay, thank you for letting me express my finding. And sorry about the noise you may hear. I'm sitting in a hotel, and it's quite lousy place. When I look at the Czech national strategy, as well as the connected documents, Digital Czechia, and innovation strategy of the Czech Republic, I think they are really well elaborated document, well interconnected, aiming at the area and places where the Czech Republic shall concentrate on. And I think it doesn't make sense to spend more time on improving those strategies. because I strongly believe that the strategy shall be reviewed once we have an indication or an experience that something is not working or something is missing. And we are not in such situation. Such situation hasn't come yet, and I think we don't have such an experience. So I try to see if I can comment on an improvement. So it's a better execution plan, something that would define real actions and steps in the individual years or periods that the plans defines. And this is, in fact, usually a general challenge in many countries and executing.
Sorry to interrupt you. So bad that we cannot really hear you. Maybe I will move on to Michael, and if you can find some better place to sit, it would be great, because we hardly hear you, if possible. Or maybe hands-free you can use. Michael, maybe you can just pass for a minute.
Yes, thank you very much. If I would say that I'm in a hotel, the police would be on their way to arrest me. The hotels are closed in Poland. This is for our Czech friends to know.
But not for the business trips, I guess.
Oh, okay. That's. I don't want to repeat all the things that Daria and Zbig told just a minutes ago, all about the lack of the specialists, lack of the awareness from the consumers, from these people who create demand, not the people who are creating supply, because both countries we see many companies, many IT companies, ISVs, unicorns, that are doing their job and supporting Western companies. They are selling in the West, not in our countries, just because there is demand over there. When I look at what Daria was presenting and the sentences like concerns about the breach of cybersecurity rules, unresolved ethical accountability and legal aspects, I would say there is no difference between the Polish customer and the Czech customers. They are exactly the same messages that we are getting. And once again, if I may go a little bit up, we are and this is to some extent answer to one of the questions from the public. Why can a small country like Estonia be a regional leader in AI implementation? Is Poland and the Czech Republic sufficiently aware of advantages of utilizing this technology, both private and public sector? The answer is that this is not AI alone. This is not the silos. This is all about using IT and data. So even if we are speaking about the AI strategy, IoT strategy, cybersecurity strategy, a critical infrastructure strategy, cloud strategy, in fact, we are talking about the data strategy. We don't have the one, and I don't think that many countries have this, the one data strategy that may lead us toward what that means cybersecurity, what it means the personal data protection, etc., etc. And now I'm coming to the conclusion. Data. Right now, the data framework is created by the guys like me, so digital immigrants. So the rules and the framework is created by the digital immigrants. What is needed?
What do you mean by digital immigrants?
Digital immigrants, the people who are learning to be in the digital world. The people like Justina, like Vladimir, like Piotr, they are digital natives. They are born and grown into this. Now they need to kick our ass and bring the new world in the rules for the digital natives. Data must be empowered. That's the case. We are building our world with the experience of the past. Now it's time when there is a one click of empowerment of the data, and then it could be used for the benefits in healthcare, in public transportation, in whatever, name it, private or public sector or universities, etc. That's probably very high end of this reports, what we can get from this. On the very practical level today, we can do what is written there. Support more skills, not only supply, but even more important on demand. have a budget for the scientific research, create more abilities to use the AI in the industry, and to some extent prevent this brain drain that our local companies are supporting our competitors in the West that finally are coming and competing with our local companies in Poland and Czech Republic. Sorry for moving so far, but most of the things that are very practical and up to date came from Zbig and Daria presentation.
Thanks a lot for this enlargement, let's say, of our discussion. We'll definitely go back to that. Dalibor, I hope maybe the sound is now better.
Can you hear me now better? I hope it is. I have moved to a different place.
Yes, let's try.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, we hear you better.
Okay. So I will not repeat actually what I said, because it was more, about a very well, elaborated the Czech national AI strategy. But and I definitely would follow on what Michal said, and it's more down to the practical execution plan and how those strategies land in the country and with the companies, startups, universities, individuals, etc. And actually, it's been also said in the pre-word that the question is if the pandemic situation we are currently facing is rather a blocker or a threat for such activities or opportunity. I personally believe it's more the opportunity, and in fact, at least in Czech Republic, it's been definitely proven by the first wave of spring pandemic outbreak. There's been a huge interest across the community, being individuals, academic institutions, or corporations, who brought ideas, projects, and support. Some projects were successful, while many were not. And I'm asking why they were not successful. I'm talking about those that were, using or aim to use AI. And one of the biggest reason was that the companies or community was missing the data first and the coordination. And at this time, when the pandemic outbreak, we were not able to quickly fix this. But if we had a good coordination hub, a place that would unify all the proposed plays by the industry and global players, that would definitely help the country to execute better and faster. And the reason I'm saying that, one of the topics that the Czech national AI strategy outlines is creating or containing the idea of having a business-focused AI hub. And I believe that executing such strategy and creating such a place in a country would definitely help both fight the pandemic as well as to help the country to successfully land the strategy in the country.
Thanks a lot for these remarks. So one element is here repeated. So data, the lack of data, or not enough of data. So maybe let's move on now to the colleagues from the public sector. Justina and Vladimir. Vladimir, I think will be able to answer in a minute. Vladimir, are you able to comment on the data issue? That of course, most of the data is in hands of the public sector. And we know also that all the ministries, all the central offices have a lot of data, but the thing is how we use this data. Is it possible really to coordinate it better? Vladimir, what's your take?
Yeah, thank you very much for the floor. Yes, I mean, it's very important to open up the data for businesses and also for the others. Also, also pandemic showed us that that it's very, very important to present data to the public sector, because there are many specialists, many other people who can help, and it's also not very good to have just one one presentation of the truth, let's say. It's also very good when the truth from the governmental side is also confronted by the guys from the outside, and who are able to model, to predict, to help, let's say. So that's why from our very big initiative now is also to prepare the legislation where we will be able to give anonymized individual data. So that's why this is our very big issue now, not issue, but our big challenge, to put it into the legislation right way, that everything is going to be and could be presented to the public.
And Vladimir, any lessons learned from this pandemic time when, you know, everything moved on so quickly into the internet space and online? And of course, the use of data was also critical and still is critical even in the healthcare system.
Yeah. Look, I don't really like, because everyone is saying that state is unable to do that or that or that. But state is represented, for example, in Czech Republic by 14 ministries, offices, state companies and stuff like that. And there are companies, state companies, there are institutions who are able to deal with that very easily. And it was easy for them to move to the online world. It was very easy for them to sign the documents and to accommodate very, very quickly. But on the other hand, there were also ministries, and let's say this is like much wider portfolio, where it was very hard to move to the online world, and it was very hard to move to the and to stay in the online world, because just to have a video conference is easy. There are tools that you can just connect, and it's very easy. But to be able to fulfill your agenda and to fulfill your work you have to do, it's quite hard. So you have to be prepared. So definitely coronavirus and the pandemic situation moved us, and it moved us to the much faster acceleration of the digitalization. And it is also visible in the numbers. Much more our customers, it means citizens, entrepreneurs, companies are like requesting from government digital services. So that's why we also approved, and it was approved by the parliament and signed by president, the legislation that every customer, so every citizen, has a right for digital services. And it means this is like a really big and tough legislation for us, that we have to prepare digital services for everyone. So everything needs to be digital, and it needs to be digital in 4 years. So we are trying
yes,
to...
it's a question to you, I guess, from Mr. Tapak. When precisely the legislation for data in Czech Republic should be released? Is there already some draft concept available?
No, it's not available yet, but we are working on it, and it's also mandatory requirement from our national economical body, advisory body to the government, and it's also task on me. So I'm also part of it, and it was taken as a crucial part what can help us. So that's why, and not only help us during the pandemic or any other crisis situation, but it also like can help us to build new businesses, to help and to support the economy, to transform also the other businesses. I will just take it from the example. We are cooperating, and it was also legislation was taken. And from the beginning of next year, it means from January next year, we will be able to use bank identity to sign to governmental digital services. I know many of us can say, yeah, in the northern countries, it's like for 10 years, but it was very tough discussion, and still it is, because banks need to. It would be great if all the banks would have just one identity and just one company and the coverage, let's say, umbrella. But yeah, from the 1st of January, we will be able to use identity, bank identity to authenticate to our governmental digital services. And what it means that we also gave banks the right to use our basic registers. So from their point of view, it's now changing also their portfolio of scoring the customers, because then the like lost ID card or something like that, it's not valid anymore. So something for something. So just we said, okay, we can use your identity and you will have this. And I think the partnership now, it's like only the partnership can save us to get back to the AI. Only partnership. I don't think that government itself can manage the change. And if we are going to put burdens under the legs of big companies, Microsoft, all the others who are moving very fast with AI, it's also not going to work. So we have to partner and we have to move forward together.
Thanks a lot for this comment. We strongly believe that that's the case also in Poland. Justyna, if I may ask you from the Polish government side and GovTech, which is quite known already and built from really nothing into a very powerful instrument of digitalization. What's your comment on the situation of AI in Poland?
Yes, so thank you for such warm words, and Mr. Professor. So, as you know, Poland is about to adopt our national AI policy, which will define our approach in this matter until 2030. And we are focusing on several fields. And in all the matters, we are focusing on interactions with other parties. For example, AI concerning to public administration, AI concerning to society, to education, higher education, business, etc., etc. So we are thinking about AI, we're thinking about sectors and parties that AI can influence on them. So it will be shortly published, and we haven't defined all the projects in this strategy, because we just underlined in which fields we should focus on. Why? Because from the very beginning in GovTech, we are focusing on, and like I liked Vladimir what you said about partnerships, because it would be not humble, not at all humble, if we said, okay, we know everything, we write down everything, and this is our strategy of Poland. No, because I can say it is an invitation to all the parties to bring AI to the exact level, the level it should be, and to think together, make up with the ideas what we should do in all the fields.
If I can ask you also to comment on this question on Estonia, which Vladimir already commented on, how we can, use this example of such a small country, right, being a little bit bigger with maybe, more even resources to boost up quicker, and if the pandemic really did it for Poland.
Mm-hmm. I like what Estonia was doing when it comes to e-services. They started with preparing, for the very beginning, they started with checking out if they have enough resources to do it right. So they didn't start doing just, okay, so this service, this. Nope. They started building like a software house, I can say, which is able to listen to the critics from the citizens, how to build the services. Sorry for this e-services focus, but it's all related to each other with AI and data, because e-services also can rely on AI, on data, of course, and they rely on data. So I like this because they were prepared to do a lot of things in the right way. And I think it is crucial that maybe we can go step back sometimes in our countries and just think about, okay, if we are prepared with our resources, with teams to do it right. So what is right? It is citizen-centered, citizen-driven. What it means? It means that we need to hear what citizens need, and after that prioritize what we should do first.
Right. Thanks a lot for these comments. I now move on to the private sector, because we've heard the public sector's voices and the people responsible actually in two governments, the Czech Republic and Poland's government, for the implementation of these solutions. But let's hear the voice of the business. Guillermo, if you can now join us, you are representing the company who physically does these projects. And maybe you can also answer to the question put by one of our participants from Iji Andri about the examples, concrete examples of AI implementation in private sector. And also there is one more question about financial sources or any subsidies for such projects given also to the company. So Guillermo, how do you do that?
Okay, so first, it would be interesting to talk about the data, because in real world business, data is usually, we could more talk about lack of data rather than data. And we always were dealing with situations that really had very small amount of data. And I'll give a few examples to answer that question. So how do we solve it? Fortunately, the algorithmic advancement has been very, very big during the last years. And we specialized on developing AI models which are very efficient and require small amounts of data. And this is crucial if you want to deploy AI in business. Then to give concrete examples, we divided into main benefits. Of course, to save costs and so companies are more profitable. And this is a big chunk of that is done by automating processes. And before you could only automate certain processes, and now, especially in the back office area, automating documents, for example, interpreting the content of PDFs, really gathering different sources, updating databases, interpreting and making decisions to file documents. Only this, for example, saves a lot of money in the back office department for big companies. And that's where we see the biggest cost savings. Another example would be to increase quality. For sure, for competitiveness, we believe the way is by adding value and by increasing quality. So adding value, we believe humans should be used by more human tasks and should not be used in a task that they are very, to give an example, 8 hours inspecting small plastic parts in a factory. And as a region, we will never be competitive if nobody wants to do that job. So we developed a system. We had a client, a manufacturing company, small company, not big one. And their biggest problem was that nobody wanted to do that job. So we invented or created a system that needs human intervention. So the humans need to inspect the parts, but the algorithm is able to detect defects in a way that it was not possible before. So
very encouraging that we still need humans somewhere, you know.
Yes, of course. Yes. This is the classic debate that AI will take the jobs. No, AI is enhancing the jobs, and AI is making the jobs more human, because nobody wants to be doing that. And you rather want to build to have a team in the company which are using AI systems and operating them, and you will attract young talent, and you will attract people. You will reduce attrition. People will not want to leave the job, and you will increase quality of in your company.
Let me ask you about in this place. Let me ask you about this qualities of the employees, and you yourself. You are a Spanish, if I understand correctly, but you work also in Czech Republic. So why is it so that maybe we don't have enough, Czech companies or Czech specialists to run such businesses, that a Spanish person is needed?
No, I'm totally an exception. And actually, Spain is, if I look, I moved here 10 years ago for another reason. And if I look at Czech Republic and Spain, I see that, and I think it could also happen to Polish people. I have the feeling in Czech Republic that they diminish themselves. They think less than they are. No, we're just a small country. We don't. There's a bit of pessimism, and me coming from outside, I see that the capacities and capabilities, the skills of people, especially in IT, it's like amazing compared to Spain, which I think we're not so good in IT.
That's definitely not the case of Poland. I don't think we have the same approach, and I think we are quite proud of our IT specialists. But would you agree on the data Daria was talking about, that the education is really a key element, and there is lack of people who could be specialists, who could understand even AI implementation in both public and private spheres?
Yes, there's a huge degree of education that we need to do in every single meeting that we have. We have to explain how an AI system works. You don't program it, you train it. And this essential understanding is not there yet. But we have a very hands-on, we're field AI guys. We've been always delivering solutions from 4 years ago to all kinds of businesses. So we've been developing and working with the clients since a long time ago. And this is all that we are in the field. We are aware that we have to do this evangelization part of the work, and we need to work with that. And another thing I'd like to mention is that population is aging, and AI can also play a big role in this aspect, in two ways. First of all, older people are more experienced, and experience, it means know-how. And if you can train the systems and you can train the AI models to take decisions based on their most expert and best professionals in companies, then when they retire, they don't leave a gap in the company. For example, this technician he's the master. He hears the machine, he immediately knows what's going on. The young apprentice joins the company, it takes him years. And probably, if conditions are not good, he will leave. And company says, okay, I'm out of know-how. How can I retain this? And AI models can really play a big part on this, because we train the AI models based on the best professionals. And if they leave, that decision-making, that know-how stays in the company. So I think we can use the best part of that more experienced part of population, which is their experience, and keep using them because they're essential they have a huge value for the companies. And this could be a way also to empower that.
Guillermo, it's a very encouraging note you ended with. I feel personally encouraged that not only, the youngest people in the population have chance really to continue working, and even, until our old years, we can use artificial intelligence in order to make ourselves working better. That's what we could call Homo sapiens plus, that it will, enlarge our capacities, brain capacities, memories, and everything like that, not replace us. Piotr, let's move to Poland. Piotr Mieczkowski, Digital Poland Foundation. You are working between these two worlds. Maybe I would ask you both about the data use, but also about this mental preparation in the Polish case for AI implementation. How do you think the situation looks like in our country?
Well, maybe first of all, let me comment on the development of the Polish AI sector. Very briefly, I would say that we are really fragmented, and most of the AI startups are really fresh. I mean, newly established, like a couple of years ago, and most of them, or at least half, are producing goods or services for companies abroad, because we are missing demand locally in Poland. In terms of knowledge, I think, first of all, I think it was also mentioned in your report, which is very good, by the way, that, of course, in Poland, we nominally, I mean, from let's say, from developers' point of view, we have many developers, but when you consider, that Poland is the biggest country in the CE region, so that's the reason. But if you look at the intensity, how many developers do we have comparing to the population, then we are really far behind. For example, behind Estonia, which was mentioned a couple of times today. In terms of knowledge, I would first of all focus on the managers. I truly believe that the main reason why we don't have so much demand coming from public or bigger corporation, from public sector or bigger corporation in Poland, is the managers are not understanding the benefits, or they are not understanding the use cases or what they could do. You know, I have a funny story to say. Just a couple of months ago, a big pharma corporation, you know, the CEO heard so much about the AI. He said to his directors, well, we have to develop AI, you know, we have to use AI, but the guys, you know, the managers below him in the structure, they said the same to the managers, frontline managers, but they didn't figure out any use case, any idea how to use AI. So I would say we are missing business use cases. That's one of the reasons why we don't have so much demand in Poland. The other reason I see is the lack of demand, or maybe small demand, coming from public sector. Justyna is doing a good job here, but probably, you know, it's just GovTech, but we are missing, you know, even the municipalities. So all branches of the public sector, you know, the municipalities, but also we are missing demand coming from biggest Polish public companies. Some of them are really innovative, like PKO BP, which is the biggest Polish bank. But that I would say is a star, not something which is common in Poland. In terms of you know, because it was mentioned in a chat, in a question on Facebook, what are the use cases? I mean, there are many use cases. Just to give you an idea, in Poland, we specialize in analyzing data and making chatbots, for example. So chatbot is a very good use case to present the AI. That is the program which make a conversation with clients. For example, you could ask him, what is the status of your order when you bought something on the e-commerce, or check the availability of the service. So that could be the examples.
One more question from the audience here. Maybe you can, Piotr, you can answer. Do we have in Poland and in Czech Republic, also, or anywhere else in the country, an obligatory, a mandatory teaching about AI somewhere in the curricula of schools, primary school, secondary school, any level?
No. I think we don't have anything about AI. Of course, you could mention that, you know, the basis for AI is math and it's statistics. So in some way. So, but I think this kind of knowledge you will learn on the university level. So, but I truly believe it's not really the problem. I would rather focus on cooperation, or collaboration. I truly believe that I didn't grow up in Czech Republic, so I'm not aware of their educational system. But I truly believe that Polish educational system should much more focus on cooperation, because AI is not something that could be created by the technician, you know, by the engineer. Of course, at the end, it will be by the engineer who will get the data, etc. But you know, the more advanced solution you build, the more complex use cases you build also, and you need support from different departments: product department, marketing department, sales department. So they need to collaborate, and I believe that that's additionally the point I'm making here is we are missing that kind of collaboration spirit, I would say. So
at least we are missing it in Poland. That's well known that the Polish education system doesn't really concentrate on cooperation between the pupils or students. It concentrates more on individual skills. But let me move on into this cooperation point in the larger scale, because we have also the question from the audience, and I would move on to Justyna and Vladimir, because I just wonder if there is any cooperation between the Polish and Czech governments at at least as far as coordination or some exchange of experiences which happens in both the countries. Do you cooperate, or you just do it separately?
So
Justyna.
I start to answer this question because I'm smiling because Petr Oczko was presenting at the beginning, and with Petr Oczko we have cooperation during the first phase, just when a pandemic broke out, and we have organized together a hackathon, international hackathon, for the greatest programmers, and of course, it is. We see that it is important to not only to such great events like hackathons, but of course on daily basis. But at the same time, I come back to this feeling that all of us, like I like this. I repeat that I like this Estonia's approach, that to be prepared to share with others, and if you are not ready with your resources, it is complicated to share this to share knowledge with each other. But nevertheless, of course, we are cooperating in such fields when it comes to events, when it comes to exchanging our knowledge. But I'm not sure if we have like formal cooperation. That's I'm not aware of.
Right. Maybe this could be one of the recommendations after this discussion. Michael, let me move on to you, because you know quite well the education system, especially university level. The question would be from the floor. Thanks all of you who are following our discussion on Facebook. So the question is about the cooperation of the universities and generally about the situation at the university level as far as, AI research, AI knowledge, and also the preparation of the alumni of the universities for such the world with the AI existing. Michael.
Thank you very much. The interesting part, we did this similar research around 18 months ago. I don't think that many things has changed yet. So what was AI in the universities, or who is the specialist on AI? That was like the research based on LinkedIn. So we found that who is involved in AI? They are first, people from the large cities. Second, males. Third, from the technical universities or IT, computer science departments in the universities. Working at the universities or working in the IT companies. This is supply. And for many of the, and by the way, and age up to, most of them age up to 35. And that's it. So the young males from the large cities with the technical background working in the IT companies. This is all about supply. Then we need to, when we think about our economy and our public sector, we need to think about the demand. So that's the biggest problem for the universities. And also what we need some more, but I think Piotr can comment on this a little bit more. After many months of the discussions, there is a new research project in Poland, which would take around 200 million euros for a little less, maybe 180 million euros dedicated for AI. So that's, but this is 7 years project. So we can see what will be the effect of this. Coming to the conclusions is how to transfer this first very emotional move to AI. This is like a buzzword of the day 2 years ago. And right now we are coming to the harsh reality, how to do this. And all the examples that you presented are here. People are asking, what is from AI to me, how I can use it. Moving from this little bit emotional and very technical and very supply oriented move demand move into the practical use of AI. Universities, by the way, are pretty well prepared. They focused a lot on preparing the skills and preparing their people who are the teachers, the university teachers. They spend a lot of time on this, so this is not that bad situation. That's a different story about the research and how our countries, Czech Republic and Poland, can compete in the global market. This is a different story, but
compete or maybe also cooperate at the level of experts.
That would be great. That would be great, because I think we are silos to some extent, not only in our region, call it Visegrad group or call it the Eastern Europe, doesn't really matter, but we are also silos locally. That's the other part. And this cooperation, we need to learn a lot. And I think COVID made a lot of progress with this.
Thank you, Michael. And Piotr, maybe you can follow on because your name was mentioned by Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I would just mention the cooperation. This fall, so pretty it's pretty fresh website. We established a website called aipoland.org. And this is one of the reasons, because we truly believe that we need much more cooperation between countries, also in CE, 3C, whatever you call that region. So the website is purely in English. So we will be reaching out in January to all our Prague AI, Slovak AI, Austria AI, etc., to establish stronger cooperation. Because when we had a meeting, in the spring 2020 or in fall 2019. On one of the events in the region, most of the institution coming from our friends, from the foreign countries, were saying that we have, for example, a very small uptake in Horizon 2020, which is the the EU R&D program. And one of the reasons for that is that we are missing, for example, our colleagues from Slovak AI. When I asked the professor, what's the reason? I mean, she said, I don't know who to contact with. I mean, who should I contact in Poland, for example? I don't know what are the competences in Poland. So I think we should bring this to our attention, that we should try to build some kind of competences center and present the capabilities. And that's one of the reasons I see that each country should build capabilities where are they strong. I think we should not say that we are strong in everything. We should rather focus on 2-3 areas or sectors, and that's I think the how we could collaborate in the future.
And maybe one more point: enlarge the mindset about AI. Digital Poland Foundation is an example. You are just doing now the competition in art AI application.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So one of the reasons, I mean, we as a foundation are doing we are measuring the pulse of society 5.0. That's the Japanese concept of society, where technology could help, bring or solve very pressing strategic problems like climate change. And we figure out, because we are asking questions, we ask Poles what's their attitude toward technologies. And even just yesterday, I really brought to your attention the State of European Tech report coming from Atomico. And they ask founders, startuppers, what are the biggest challenges? And they put AI on the 3rd place. The first one was the disinformation. The second one was big tech, like Google, etc., monopolizing the market. And the third challenge was AI. And people are really afraid. So we are looking for, first of all, upskilling or reskilling initiative. So we cooperated with Reactor University of Helsinki, and we are promoting in Poland very good online course, Elements of AI, which is in Polish right now. So that's one initiative. The second is digital art. So we set up during the digital festival this October the first contest for art created by AI. We just closed the calls. So now we will send the work to the jury. And in January, we work together with National Museum in Warsaw. We'll present the findings. And why? Because we want to present, what AI could create. But one of the reasons is that we want to show that AI will not take your job. And this is really funny because ZAIX, which in Poland is a society affiliation of artists, they were really afraid to join the contest because they were said, well, you will promote AI, some kind of tools, they will take our job, right? Because the AI
artists will not be needed anymore, right?
Yes, but just to very briefly to sum up, I was really impressed that Academy of Arts joined us, and the professor said, no, it's additional tool. It's like camera. I mean. 100 years ago, there was no camera. Now you have a camera, so you could have a contest for photographers, but it extends your skills, right? You still need humans to make photos, to do that, to do something. So I truly believe, I think it was mentioned by Guillermo Alda, which we said that I truly believe that AI will bring more jobs than destroy. We just need to, first of all, reskill, help people, get new skills, and embrace the AI because it will increase our increase productivity first.
So it's not only about the data, about the IT specialists, it's all about our mindset and about bringing into this field many other people, like artists, like all of us, to make them understand what this AI can do for them. Because our discussion is going to the end, I would ask the final comments, maybe short recommendations from Guillermo and then maybe Justina and the authors of the report as well. Guillermo?
Well, I would just say that I would, of course, encourage to companies and public sector to keep on investing in AI. Because AI is not a threat that is going to take our jobs. AI, on the other hand, is neither a toy that you just do a couple of proof of concepts and then there's no results. No, AI is a very valuable tool, and it's augmenting and enhancing our jobs and capabilities. And of course, it requires a new mindset and new skill set, but it goes along the way. So I would just say that.
Thanks a lot. It's not a toy. I will remember that. Justina.
So our job is to open the public sector for innovators, but we cannot do that if managers of the public sector's institutions and the public sector, public state-owned companies, they don't be open. But and I can see that they are more and more open, and they are open, but always they can be more open, I can say, and that is very important when it comes to AI, because if you are scared of opening your data, there are plenty of tools to make sure that data are safe. So don't be scared, and go deeply into innovation with opening data too.
Thanks a lot. Martin?
Just I mentioned in the discussion or in the questions, a question about cooperation between Czech and Polish researchers. I have just one number about this topic, and there was in joint EU projects in Horizon 2020 and 7th Framework Program. There was 14 joint projects with participation of Czech and Polish partners. So there is the base for cooperation. I think the international cooperation is important, and we should develop it more between our countries in AI.
Thanks a lot, Martin, and thanks the whole team from Aspen Institute. And let me just move to the summary. I would ask Sarah Polak, our colleague from Czech Republic, whose name is Polak, actually. So you bring us close by your name even. Sarah is from Aspen Institute. Actually, she is from the Young Leaders program. So Sarah, please do a summary of our discussion.
Hi, everyone. My father is actually half Polish as well, so I'm even genetically crossing the boundary. It's been a really, really interesting discussion. I've been listening closely, and I think that there's a major problem that actually stems from a discussion I had with the Aspen Institute in Berlin at their conference yesterday, which is that the opportunities that AI and digitalization, which I think it's important to differentiate these two things, and they often get mixed up, the collection of data and then the actual analysis of data. They provide us with a new socioeconomic model and new opportunities that's not necessarily congruent with the way that states function right now and the relationship that they have with the public and with the individual. And what we see is the scissors opening between the public, and those are the people that are worried about losing their jobs, and those people that will be using AI in their everyday lives, like they once did with the steam engine or the invention of electricity or the invention of the printing press, and the state and like the bigger technological structures that are basically like trying to bridge this gap. So I think that there are two main problems, and I even saw it and beautifully highlighted in Daria's presentation, which was the education and the need for reskilling and upskilling and actually telling people what AI is in the first place and what opportunities it gives them. But secondly, like teaching the public as well. And I think that the solutions to that, there's two of them, in my humble opinion, but also what arises from the discussion today, which is multidisciplinarity and demystification. Multidisciplinarity, I was on a panel with Aspen, this was about 1.5 years ago, which was with the Dutch government, where basically like the triumvirate of the state, the private sector, but also the academic sector, and then the public being vigorously engaged in all of that is going to be what propels us forward. However, those are only like empty words unless something actually physically happens. So what I think that is really important are grassroots initiatives where things like elements of AI, which we're also translating into Czech with Prague AI. So we're also pushing that initiative. And actually educating the people about what AI is and bringing that demand bottom up, where you know, every conference that I'm at, like actually like what I hear is not even discussions about the future, but discussions from the people about why do I need to fill in these forms and why do I need to do this admin? Like, why isn't that automated? Why isn't it digitalized? So people are actually starting to demand of the state and of the state structures similar levels of fantastic service that they get from the private sector, and that level of personalization that artificial intelligence brings them in free services like Facebook. So people are starting to expect a lot more. People like my grandmother who are suddenly becoming a lot more digitally literate, and that educational gap there is still very big. But I think that what we need to do there in terms of this is the demystification of AI. I'm maybe like on the extreme part of that spectrum, and like I discuss this a lot with some friends from the industry, and where things like digitalization or fake news or just the general anthropomorphization of the concept of AI is often giving it either powers that it doesn't have, like killer robots, if I'm being like overly prosaic, or it's giving it some form of agency that it wants to steal your data. And people always are naturally much more afraid, like there were once of electricity, where you had cartoons being published that basically like if you touch a socket or like approach a socket from like 2 meters, you're going to die of electric shock unless you're wearing like protective gear. Like there used to be genuine concerns, like people didn't want to even use electricity. And I think we're at that same psychological social stage. And we need to demystify, we need to actively popularize, and we need to educate. I think that all of us individually have these tools, but something, I lived for about 10 years in the UK, and something that I think Central Europe is worse at than, if I'm speaking purely anthropologically, than the West, is just general cooperation. We're naturally more skeptical. We had a lot of regimes plunder us. There's often like psychological mistrust between the public and bigger structures, but also structures in between each other. And I think that it's this level of discourse, and also often not being able to sell ourselves well enough. Like often, like, you know, we heard from Good AI, we've got phenomenal companies that are doing incredibly well, that are like breaking the barriers of like artificial general intelligence research. If this were in America, there'd be National Geographic documentaries about it and everyone wouldn't stop speaking about it. But we're much more reserved here. So I think it's also a change in mentality in the way that we present our results and cooperate, which will lead to multidisciplinarity, which will also lead to better education. So those are my kind of like high level remarks. We do a lot of work on this kind of education with Prague AI, but we also do it with several startups and several kind of educational initiatives that I'm a part of. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and the tide is slowly turning. But from my end, maybe just like a high level ending remark is that originally an archaeologist, so I have seen what innovations of new technologies have brought throughout humanity and the way that humanity has always approached them. And it's always a very same sinusoid cycle of fear, then kind of like general acceptance, and then scaling. The problem is that if we don't grasp AI well and sensibly, we're missing out on an evolutionary step. And that Homo sapiens plus that you mentioned, that won't happen. And we'll stagnate and we'll be drastically behind. And also Europe will be behind people like countries and entities like America or China that are just really powering ahead. So we need to be very mindful of this when we approach regulation, education, and popularization. But I think that panels like this are a really good step forward. So thank you very much. I'm really honored to have taken part.
Sarah, thank you very much. It's brilliant, your summary. And I think you just proved that the archaeologists are still needed in the 21st century. And one more suggestion from the floor, from the audience, and I would end our discussion with this note, is that we may think about the V4 project, maybe in public-private partnership. Maybe Microsoft could join the government to raise awareness and to help, educate people and open eyes what this really is, this AI, and how to convince people really not to be afraid, but just to be a part of this incredible change we are facing. Thank you all.
Challenge taken.
Challenge taken.
On behalf of Dalibor and myself, I could say yes, challenge taken.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thanks all the guests in our Zoom, studio, let's call it. I don't even know how to call it. The space we have in the Zoom. Thanks a lot for all the comments and questions on the internet. Thank you, the authors of the report. I remind everyone it's available. You can read it. Please just join us in reading this document. Thanks the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for financing this exercise, the research we've done. And I hope we will meet again next year to discuss what would be the further development in the AI sectors, both in Poland and Czech Republic. Thank you all. See you. Goodbye.